All right, so we've had a lot of things happen. The latest entry into the political sweepstakes for the Democrats is Senator Kamala Harris. Senator Harris is a Democrat from California, making the announcement yesterday on Good Morning America, and then speaking with reporters who were saying, well, you've got a kind of a mixed background. How do you describe yourself?
The core of my campaign is the people. It's about the people. And understanding that, as with any one of us, we all have lives that are complex.
All right, so complexity doesn't usually work too well on a bumper sticker, but you got to have something to say. Let's talk about the messaging of these candidates as we get the field getting larger and larger. Isaac Wright is a partner in Forward Solutions Strategy Group, a Democratic strategist, tweeting at Isaac_Wright. It's spelled a little differently, so I'll spell it for you in a moment. But Isaac, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So we see the field is growing larger. It seems to me right now, despite the fact that those of us who follow politics know who Senator Harris is and we know who Senator Sanders is, and I think a lot of America does, but is step one right now just trying to introduce yourself to the potential voter?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing right now is introducing yourself as well as making a case for why in such a large pack of candidates you're the right candidate to sort of advance in the process. I think Rolling Stone has a really, really good leaderboard for the Democratic primary right now, and I think it has 27 likely or announced candidates, and then 2 additional dark horse candidates. So you're looking at around a field of around 29. It's a big question of how do you distinguish yourself amongst that broad of a field, and it also makes it anybody's ball game.
A lot of them are going for money right now, too, right? Donations are key. In other words, to be able to get that message out there, you got to be funded.
Absolutely. That was a smart move Senator Harris made early on, was building an online small donor base to help with the fundraising and to show a breadth of appeal. Now I think she's got to look at how to break beyond the coast and into middle America.
Isaac, a lot of questions are going to be asked. Obviously, it's a low bar to say, I'm not President Trump. It's the first qualifier, though, for Democrats, and it's pretty easy to make that case. The next step, though, is to decide where you're going to run. I know the lanes are there, but how do you make that appeal if you are trying to go after the people who are most likely to be voting in the primaries next year?
You know, that's a really interesting question, and I think Senator Gillibrand really went after a point that I think we're going to see emerge as a growing point in the Democratic primary for 2020, which is who can appeal to the voters Democrats need to win. And part of that is geographic, part of that is cultural, but it's a big effort of persuasion. And the question, Democrats Hillary Clinton won the election with a 3 million vote margin, but Donald Trump won the White House. So we can't just go after the same voters and try to drive up that margin of victory in the popular vote. We have to be strategic in how we win the Electoral College. And so I noticed Senator Gillibrand talked about how her old congressional district in upstate New York that no longer exists thanks to redistricting, but her old congressional district before she was a senator was a Republican district, and she won there as a Democrat, talking about things like Medicare for all. And so she also talked about her own transition evolution on issues, but she talked about that starting point and how we persuade a broader set of voters. And there's a large swath of voters who are available to Democrats that we need to be able to get into the tent to win in 2020, not just the popular vote, but the Electoral College. And I think you're going to see, Sherrod Brown has said some things as he gets closer to announcing a decision one way or the other. I think you're going to see more and more of these candidates talking about how they have that appeal. It's not just about rallying our own base, but it's about giving voters who may have chosen Trump the first time and giving them a path to make a better choice in this election.
But they have to get the base first, don't they? Don't they have to get that base first?
Absolutely, but the base wants to win. The base wants to win. America has suffered from 4 years of Donald Trump, and so they're looking at who can put that math together. I noticed immediately out of the gate in Iowa, that was one of the things Gillibrand was talking about. I think you're going to see more of that kind of conversation coming from Sherrod Brown, from Klobuchar, from Bullock, from people like that across the country as they go. I think that's the case that Harris is probably going to start moving into making when she gives her speech this weekend in Oakland, where I think she's going to talk more about the narrative of her candidacy, not just the fact that she's in the race.
Democratic strategist.
She's made that announcement.
Democratic strategist Isaac Wright with us. He's a partner at Forward Solutions Strategy Group. So the young guns, if you will, of the Democratic Party, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman from New York, are pushing things like Medicare for all, 70% income tax. There are others, and Kirsten Gillibrand, one of those who said, let's eliminate ICE. How much are the more, shall we say, energized on the left going to push the agenda of those, despite the fact that they have to get elected by the vast majority of Americans? But to get to the nomination first, how much are they going to influence the direction of the conversation that these candidates are going to have?
Well, I think you can already see some of the influence, right? I mean, Ocasio-Cortez has also championed the Green New Deal, and I think that's something that you see a lot of Democrats getting on board with, and you see that push forward for an infrastructure deal, the Green New Deal being an infrastructure deal that puts people to work in America, building a greener infrastructure for the country, for our power grid, for our system, for how we go about daily life, that'll provide jobs, bring down energy bills, and be better for the climate and the environment. So I think that is a very positive influence that we see right now happening.
Can Democrats as a party have a white male as their standard bearer in 2020?
I think what we need is a strong candidate with a progressive vision for America. I think the base is open to who that person can be. If you look at the USA Today poll that was run last month that talked to Democratic base voters across the country, they asked, here are the 10, what we perceive as the 10 leading candidates right now. Who do you prefer? Somebody new came in at 60%. So I think right now the best thing you can be is a new face and a new voice. I think that matters probably more than any other characteristic going into the primary.
So in other words, that Joe Biden is not somebody Democrats you think are looking for, or Bernie Sanders, because they're not the new voice?
Well, the respondents in that poll didn't, and both of those people were named in the poll. They were some of the stronger contenders that were named, but anytime somebody new gets 60%, and 10 people are left to divide up the other 40%, that's not a strong base to start with. That said, we are a long way out. It's a field over 20 people, most likely. It's still anybody's ballgame. We could just as easily see Pete Buttigieg. We could see Joe Biden. We could see Governor Bullock or Governor Inslee or Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar emerge still as the leader. And we may see multiple leaders emerge. That's an important thing to remember. We're looking at starting debates in the Democratic Party before the end of this year, and then stretching into next year in the primary. The mantle of leading the primary pack may change multiple times before we have a nominee. And
to that point, I wonder, when did Democrats start differentiating themselves from each other, number one? And number two, do you anticipate there will be strategies based on the primary schedule? I mean, it was pretty disastrous for Rudy Giuliani in 2012 for the Florida strategy. On the other hand, Senator Bernie Sanders was much more involved in the New Hampshire primary in 2016 than he was in Iowa. And you kind of wonder, okay, Barack Obama, when he was a senator, won the nomination, but that win in Iowa was key because it gave him credibility in moving forward. He lost the New Hampshire primary, but it was then game on. So do you expect some strategies to emerge from this, from the different candidates? And would they be going for the early win so that they can avoid being knocked out of the field?
There will be some people, I think, who go for the early wins to prove sustainability. There will be some people who pick a state midway through the calendar to make their stand, to try to be one of the people who emerge latter in the process. Look, it's not lost on any of us that California's move of their primary from June to March is a big boost for Harris, potentially for Garcetti if he is officially in the race. That is going to change the dynamics of California's influence in the race, according to the new calendar.
Okay. And you're not running, right? I just want to clarify that.
I'm one of a handful of Democrats that will definitely not be running for president in 2020.
Okay. Giving us the William Sherman, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. All right. Isaac Wright, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
That is Isaac Wright, partner at Forward Solutions Strategy Group, Democratic strategist. His thoughts on the 2020 field for the Democrats, as we are very early on, but we're already starting to see some declared candidates. He is tweeting at Isaac_Wright. That is IZAC_Wright, WRIGHT.